Try to do this. I'm gonna try to make sure that I don't say the wrong stuff. All right, welcome everybody to secondary sessions, man, where we are a group of educators who are gonna have the conversations about what's going on in secondary education, music education, band, and so much more. As soon as you come in, please make sure that you go ahead and smash that like button and also subscribe to the network. How y'all doing, fellas?
I'm doing good, man. Can't complain. Happy to be here.
What's up, doctors?
What's good, everybody?
So I wanna make sure I do it the right way. I mean, y'all pretty basically kind of remember who some of these folks are. Let's go ahead and introduce everybody. We got Quan.
What's up, gentlemen?
Jared.
What's good, Jared Davis, band director, McNair High School, DeKalb County, Atlanta, Georgia. And Nelly says hi too.
And we got Derek.
What's going on, y'all? Derek Wright, band director, IT Norcom.
Yeah.
It's Mitch Daddy. All right, man. So basically, man, we're gonna rock it like we did. What was it? 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago on the Thursday. Man, we're just gonna have these conversations, these open conversations about what's going on, and I'm gonna let you guys loose and give your thoughts, and we're gonna just kind of go back and forth and have a dialogue. If you're coming in, just know that at the end of the last topic, I'm gonna allow everybody to come in and anybody to come in and call in, and you can give your 2 cents. Comments is going to be going off, so you are welcome to use the comment section. Just make sure that you go ahead and click that like button. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go right from the top and get into our first topic. Are we putting the student first or our reputations first? Are we putting the students first or our reputations first? All right, let's go ahead and get it kicked off. Since Quan is a regular, we'll let him go ahead and get started. Man, I mean, you already do this on Talk That Talk, so you comfortable with this one. All right, so go ahead. You got it, Quan.
In my opinion, that solely depends on the individual. And so I'm gonna kind of play devil's advocate. Honestly, it's both, pending your perspective. So for me, I don't want my reputation to be tainted by a student that just merely does not practice or does not truly has the withedness to truly invest themselves into the craft of becoming a musician, regardless if they're not trying to be a band director or whatnot. However, to be that person that makes sure that the students come first and their well-being and everything, I think it's a dichotomy of both personally. And I say that because no band director wants that student, for example, to transfer to another school. And then they say, well, who was your band director from the previous school? Oh, Quan. Oh, yeah, I was first trumpet in that band. And then you'd be like, well, play something. And then they trash. You'd be like, that band director be like, well, your band director was trash for you to be, first chair, so forth and so on. So you don't want to have, affect your reputation in that manner. But as well, you have to be humble with an H. You have to be humble enough to where it's not about you, but it's about the student at all times. So, investing in them, not just from a music standpoint, but from a holistic standpoint. So I think it's a little bit of both.
All right, word. Jared, you got it.
I definitely agree. I could say there's more, for me personally, there's a little more emphasis on the student first, because what they do directly impacts your reputation. So, if you don't have kids that's working, or, that aren't feeling well. I'm glad Quan put like social emotional into it, because that matters. You know what I'm saying? A kid who's, they're not even, they're present, but they're not like present. That impacts everything. So we are way more than just band directors at this moment. I know you guys know that we wear very like many hats. And me personally have gone, and I'm sure you guys as well have gone, above and beyond the cause of just the director. It's left music a long time ago. But that impact, having that impact with that kid, definitely, made them better, which, they went on to do great things, and, they sang our praises. It wasn't, I can honestly say I never did it so I could be like, yeah, man, I want somebody to talk good about me, or that wasn't like the thought for real. It was just kind of like the byproduct of making sure the kid was straight. So it's definitely both, but with more emphasis on the student first, as it impacts, your reputation.
All right, Derek, are we putting the student first or our reputations?
I agree with what Quan said. It's an individual thing because I do see people that put their reputation before a student. It's you got people that do their job a certain type of way. However, I'm a strong believer. You put the student first, and your reputation is going to speak for itself. It's all indirectly related. I mean, they kind of touch on every single point, but I mean, as an educator, I don't think anybody really. Well, I take that back. There's some people that got into this field for the shine time and all that, but if anything, it's about the impact of the students. So me personally, I can only speak to my experience and what my intentions are. It's always about the student. I'll speak my experience this year. I had a really young band. I don't know if any of y'all are familiar with IC Norcom. They used to have some pretty good musicians coming out there. We had a real young band. I'm talking about ninth, 10th graders that haven't played in a year and a half. So we kind of cut down a lot of repertoire that we would normally play. And I was, at that point in time, I was thinking about the students, how I'm gonna affect their growth. I'm not gonna try to push them to do something that they can't do, and think about my reputation with Norco. I'm thinking about students. How can I help them grow? So, um, you know, like I said, I think students first is what most of us are doing and what we should be doing, obviously.
Derek, you touched on something I want to hit on real quick. I know Quan is in Texas, and I know what the standards and the practices are in Texas. We have what's called UIL, and we are in our second semester, which means that we're preparing for solo and ensemble. I mean, not solo and ensemble, concert and sight reading. Even though solo and ensemble does take place during this time, but the big thing right now is concert and sight reading. Jared, you all have something similar to that as well, right?
Yes, sir. LGPE, large group performance. I don't know what the E is, but yeah.
And Derek, y'all have something like that too, right?
Yeah, it's just SOL. I guess if you want to put it like that. We call it adjudication.
Okay.
So
So here's my question to all of y'all. Are you I know in most cases, I know in Texas especially, you're required to do that. That's what your contract states. Are you all required to do that as well, Jared?
It is, from my understanding, it is like strongly encouraged. I feel like, it is, but I don't think it's written down somewhere. But like when I went to like the initial trainings for, band directors, those beginning meetings, for the school year, we met with like the music supervisor for DeKalb County and all that good stuff. They talked about it heavy. Like it has never been stressed this much ever, well, in my professional career. So I'm with it. But yeah, it is like a big deal. And understandably so. Like it makes sense why they push it so much. So, my thoughts and views of that has changed a lot actually, coming from Charlotte to here. But yeah, it is like strongly encouraged, and like all the directors talk about it, like all of them, which is pretty. It's pretty cool, man.
What about you, Derek? Is it something that's required?
It's required at the level of our city, but anything past that is not required. Because Virginia, we work in districts. So, for my district, it'll be Portsmouth, Virginia Beach, Suffolk, Chesapeake, and I think Franklin is something along those lines. So we're not required to go to that adjudication, but the Portsmouth adjudication we do have to attend. However, I'm a strong believer giving the students that experience of, seeing what else is out there. A lot of people only know what's happening at their school. They don't know what's happening at the school in the same city, let alone schools in the other cities, that are playing at different levels. It kind of opens up their eyes. We did that when I was in high school. We used to go, districts, counties, and then state, so I, it's not required, but I do think it's a necessary experience as a bandsman.
So the reason why I'm asking that is because, like I said before, there are a lot of districts and a lot of places that do require you to go, and a lot of times I've witnessed and I've seen directors who will, and maybe I could use a better term for this, but who will beat their kids to a pulp to make sure that they are prepared for UIL. But I always wonder, is that for the student or is that for their reputation alone? Right. So, because I know in the state of Texas, whatever you get at UIL is going to follow you. So when you want to go to that next job or that next gig, that is the stake on your name and your reputation. So coming from that perspective, do you all believe that it's still for either the student or the reputation?
Uh, I, if you don't mind me going, like, I think when it's from that perspective, it is, but it isn't. I mean, let's be honest. Like, we know the magnitude in the state of Texas that score literally follows you for, I believe, 10 years. I think it's on your record, I believe, for 10 years, if I'm not mistaken. So, and that score, unfortunately, doesn't tell the story of why you received it. You know, if you have a brand new band, if you have a rebuilding program and you receive a 3, you know, and you're receiving a 3 from, yes, a quote unquote master bandsman, but that master bandsman may not know, you know, the situational scenario, what it took for you to earn that, or even to get those kids on that stage. And I think sometimes, and it's not a, what's the word I'm looking for? Not a, like a sympathy, adjudicated aspect, but you really need to take into consideration that if you have a beginning band that's in high school, for them to get on that stage and do what they've done at that point, you have to give your kudos um, to that director. But unfortunately, when he transitions to go to another district, the first thing they're gonna say is UIL scores. And if you see a 3 or a 4, 9 out of 10, you're not going to get that job. And that's just being honest. And that's unfortunate. So that perspective, it is about the director's reputation. However, that experience overall is needed at that level to get them, to catapult them to the next level, in my opinion. I also encourage, if your band is not ready for your state requirements, take them to festivals. Bring a master teacher in the class to show that this is how it goes. And when I did that, despite a COVID year, to a festival, my students' eyes were open to see, honestly, that some other schools that are affluent, have 4, 5, 6 band directors, have 2, 3 band halls. Like, it opens their eyes that this music thing is all not just competitive here, but it's competitive everywhere. So I think it's that aspect is needed. If you can't get them to where you want them to be, don't take the whole experience away from them. Take them to a festival.
Jared, you gonna say something or are you good?
Yeah, no, definitely. So I haven't been in a situation where your music performance assessment score dictated whether you got a job or not. Because in Charlotte, it wasn't like a requirement thing. Either you did it or you didn't. When I was in high school, it was, a big deal. You know what I mean? Like we prepared in the spring for, everybody, did their thing. Um, and it was cool because it was competitive. The student aspect of it was competitive. Kids like to see how well they scored compared to the other schools because it was public knowledge. Everybody got to see it. It was a big board outside the auditorium that we were performing in, and when scores was put in, everybody got to see it. And it kind of just raised the stakes of musicianship outside of just, oh, we blowing. You know what I mean? Like it took another, it gave you another avenue of it. Which is why, I'm here, I'm in Atlanta now, and I'm excited about it. Um, because I guess I'm eager to start that side of my rep, if that makes sense. Uh but too, it is definitely an experience that the students need. You need to know what it feels like to be adjudicated. I feel like we are in a time, what I'm saying, where it's things be like lackluster, and they be like, clap for that. No. Um like it's necessary, man. And Quan said some good stuff, man. Having beginning groups and beginning kids and the trials, the tribulations, all of that is all of that is facts. You know what I'm saying? But I do think it is up to that director to make a sound decision on what's going to sound good for that band. You know what I mean? If you got a beginning group, don't aim for something that, what I'm saying, they won't produce well. Now, I'm not saying, go absolutely easy. No, give them some, you definitely want to push the kids to grow, of course, but you want to put a sound product out. And um, in Charlotte, man, it was real discouraging when it came to looking at festivals like that because it was like it was an underlying layer of you're not going to be successful because you don't look like this, or you might not have this, or some along them lines, where I've seen in other states, other districts, what I'm saying, people were very successful with small ensembles. I'm talking about one group went out, they had like one or two maybe of every instrument, and not the double reeds, what I mean, so they had some people doubling some part, and no tenor sax, so they picked music that fit the group. I mean, they sounded good, like, and I was like, yo, this sounds great. It's like 15 kids maybe up there. They, like, it wasn't like two rows, it was one U, that was it. And they didn't have formal attire. They wore their marching band uniform and sat down, like, and
That's actually
performed.
very common here, bro.
Yeah, and so I seen that. Like, I was like, I wish I kind of like looked into these things, like a little earlier or whatever. But it was just cool to see. And I reached out to the director to find out how they did. And he was like, they got like ones. I think they got two ones and a two, something like that. But the thing he appreciated, because he had like a similar experience, was that where he was currently, the adjudicators stuck to like adjudicating the band for what it sound like, rather than, oh, you don't have such and such, so, like, picking apart what you look like, that's not the point. But I have talked to some directors, and again, it was real discouraging, man. Like, they was like, oh yeah, you everybody's not dressed the same, so you might want to consider that. Like, bruh, what are you talking about right now? What did the band sound like? What are you talking about? What they dressed like? I mean, of course, you want your students to look good and everything like that, but that's not the focal point of what we're here for. Uh,
That's
but
true.
man,
I'm gonna be honest though. In my past, I have had those comments on my judges sheet. You know, they one of the things that I've told my kids, because I know that that's a thing. Like, you are performing the minute you walk through the door, so they're judging you. Like obviously, I don't think, I pray that it doesn't happen, but I really believe you're not going to get like a lower score because of what you're wearing, because that's definitely not one of the criteria. But I do think that the first impression is always your best impression, right? So that does in some cases matter because they're going to judge you. I mean, it is what it is. That part, yeah, I'm kind of like on the fence about that part, because I mean, I know that what they're playing, what they're playing and how they sound definitely matters, but at the same time, I think that presentation is definitely important.
Yeah, it like plays a role into um it's like the overall standard kind of like if you look the part, it's like, oh, okay, they might, it won't be surprising if they sound good because you look good. But if you look kind of like not necessarily raggedy, but let's say lower, then it's kind of like demeaned a little bit, and then now you start like here, and now you gotta grow. Oh, okay, they try some things. And so you got that upward mobility thing kind of going on. But like you said, that really shouldn't be a part of the criteria of my score. I shouldn't score less because everybody's white shirt ain't the same type of white shirt or whatever.
I don't know if they that nitpicky now. Like
Yeah,
they'd be like, you got a Puritan shirt on, or you got an Izod. I
yeah.
don't,
That
I don't know if
that
they be
George.
like that right? Somebody got the short sleeve daddy out. No, I don't think they doing that.
But if
Go ahead, Quan.
if I can ask this question, well, I'm gonna make one comment, then I want to ask this question. I do think to a degree, appearance should matter to a degree. Not it shouldn't, just they shouldn't be excoriated because of uniform because we don't know people's situations. But what I do think when we do need to transition to concert attire, and because that is a part of the lesson plan and overall concert experience. So like
Mhm.
again, if that's all the kids could afford, hey, then do your thing. But I think as a director, like for example, myself, of course, we sacrifice, like we said earlier, um, putting the kids first. My goal, because I teach at a predominantly Black and Hispanic school, I don't want my kids to look, I'm just being sincere, like the minority band. Like
Yeah.
y'all know, like, you had a raggedy instruments and you got one gold instrument and then the other ones maybe fiberglass. Like you don't want that because again,
Hmm.
that first impression. You know what I'm saying? So that's number one. But I wanted to ask this question. Do you feel, and maybe this is just me, like those competitions are those adjudicated uh was competitions are necessary because like we're also competitive and we also want to know, because for me personally, I don't want to just be the best band director amongst my people. I want to be the best band director overall. You know what I'm saying? I want to, my name's like whenever I become that collegiate director that I aspire to be, I don't want to just be, oh, he's a great quote unquote HBCU band director. Now I want to be
Hmm.
like a great band director, period. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
do y'all kind of have that chip on your shoulder too? And I see Julian, your wheels kind of spinning, like even like for you too as well. Like, do you feel that, to a degree?
I mean, if and I would say most, if not all of us, came from a pretty competitive background.
Mhm.
Between being a part of these programs that did a lot of battle of the bands. So, I would think that we were all competitive in nature. But I think that when it comes to that, I also believe that I think it's really how the educator puts it across. Because some educators put it across as, we're just trying to see where we fall in line, not necessarily we're competing from one school to the next or to that school that, we may have this quote unquote, rivalry with. Some are just like, well, this is who we are and we're going to go and be who we are and we're not going to worry about anybody else. So I think it kind of depends on that educator who's in front. I think the other half of that, and this is why my brain was kind of moving, is because it made me wonder if festival or UIL wasn't in place, right? Would you still be competitive?
So probably to one degree, no. Because for what? You would just you'll get complacent. You can get into a mode. You like, I mean, man, I've been doing this. It worked. Like, why fix something that's not broke? And for me, that's man, this move, that is the biggest thing that happened here. Like for me, because it's not that I wasn't doing well. No, I think I did a lot of things pretty good. But on the other hand, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm being exposed to how important, certain things are, it made me reflect back and be like, I could have been doing this part too. Because the setup was the same. I just didn't enter that arena or whatever. Because I didn't have to. It wasn't like oh, hey, if you don't do this, you won't get your contract renewed. I feel like that fire is like, oh, okay, well, let me make sure I got this part. Because I mean, you know what I'm saying? People, you want a complete band program. You know what I mean? And to me, you're not getting a scholarship because you blow loud. That ain't what it is. You got to know what you're doing with that horn in your hand or them sticks in your hand. And so, concert was stressed anyway. Solos were stressed anyway. Scales were stressed anyway. You telling me now, okay, just put it in front of somebody else. That's it. That was the only difference. And when I'm looking back and I'm like, man, I could have had some kids doing some, like they could have been getting more recognition than what they got. You know what I'm saying? Um, so if festival and those types of things weren't, I mean, that was my experience. If it wasn't required, man, people would be like, oh yeah, bro, I got a beginning band, and I'm gonna have a beginning band next year, and I'm gonna have a beginning band the next year, because there is no, there's no fire. You know what I'm saying? Underneath me to do more than what I have to. This works, and that's it.
So in retrospect, based on your experience, what you're saying it wasn't about the student, it was about you because you became complacent.
Oh no, you could no, yeah, a director definitely could. Yeah, no, me, nah, that wasn't my necessarily my perspective of it. But there were directors that was like, they just chilling. I'm gonna get the check and that's it. I mean, I don't. There's no requirement other than keep these kids in this band room, and we could do some band from time to time. But I mean, I'm not pressed.
Well, that's interesting.
Uh,
Go ahead, Derek.
Especially, yeah.
yeah. So I'm speaking to my high school experience as a student. Um, we had mandatory adjudication too. I think it adds a level of accountability to the teacher itself. That was the first question you asked was, what are we doing that for the teacher or the students? I think it's kind of a even balance of both because depending on how the students do, depending on your, at least what my district was your job security. I think it was if you got fours, you would be on probation as a teacher if you got fours. And the next year, depending on whatever your scores were, would affect your job, your livelihood, So I like it because it adds that level of accountability too. But at the same time, Quan kind of touched on it. You don't know everybody's situation. You know, you could have a school be in an area where maybe it's just not meant to be. You know, and this is what you're dealing with, and you could be trying your hardest, man. I mean, doing everything that you possibly can, and it's just not going to get to the level that the adjudicators expect you to be at. That's another thing. I think we all have taught in some urban areas, or we teach in the urban areas, right? In the outskirts of our areas are kind of like a little bit more affluent. You want to say it, I'll say it like that. Um, Man, sometimes these adjudications don't. They're not culturally sensitive to what we have to work with. And I'm not even just talking about instruments or anything like that. They don't understand what goes on in our culture, and they expect, like Chesapeake. That's a city right next to us, right? There's a school, a high school. There's three band directors. I mean, three band directors that all get paid full time as full time band directors, right? I could never even fathom anything like that happening in Portsmouth. That doesn't make sense. But we don't have the same resources. However, when we go to that district adjudication, they're going to be trying to stack us up with that school that has those 3 band directors that are specialists in percussion, woodwinds, and brass. You know, we don't have the same opportunity. However, man, that adjudication though, man, like I said, it's that experience. I said it earlier. It's about opening your eyes up to what else is out there. Because I promise you, them kids at the inner city schools don't know that it's other kids their age playing at this level, playing this repertoire and doing stuff like that, man. I think it's all about exposure. Quan said it's about catapulting them to the next level. So I do believe the adjudication is very necessary. I don't think a program can really grow without, you know, giving that constructive criticism, even viewing the adjudication of other ensembles. A lot of people skip over that part, but I know with us, we had to sit 2 bands doing their adjudication. So we would play, and we had to sit and watch 2 other bands. That was the requirement for our performance. So I like the whole concept of adjudication. That's just me though. I think it's how a program grows. You keep the competitiveness. And if you have good adjudicators, you're gonna get some good feedback that's gonna help you moving forward. So,
Hey, the one thing to piggyback on what he said, resources. So I was telling y'all about like appearance. It wasn't just physically what you were wearing. No, it was like instruments as well. Cause okay, so if I'm trying to get my kids on some concert stuff, maybe I don't have concert tubas. I don't. So I got to use a sousaphone because that's what I have. And so, you know, a judge might see that and be like, "Oh, that's the wrong ensemble for this horn. So we're gonna dock you just off that." But what if the tuba player played it in context? What if it is? What if he did his job and was sensitive because you know you got the bell above the band, but it still fit? That should be all right. Like right now, man, I'm dealing, bro. I don't have a concert euphonium in sight. Not one. Like, that worked. So, I mean, you know, I'm trying to make some things happen. But for that winter concert, you know what I'm saying, which is not adjudicated yet at all. You know, it was just for the fans and or for the parents and all that good stuff. Them kids was on marching baritones whole time. And I was like, now you gotta understand, man, it's bell front, it's not going up, it's going straight. So you gotta be sensitive to the ensemble that you're playing in because I have been told that earlier in my career, you know what I'm saying, that my concert band sounded like a marching band sitting down. That hurt. I was like, that's not the point. But that wouldn't have happened at festival or something like, or if I didn't invite that director in to listen to the group or something like that. I wouldn't have known that. You know what I mean? Because to me, I was like, oh no, you know, I think you're playing all the right notes. The intonation's not terrible. You know what I mean? It's a concert song. It should have a concert sound. No, that's not true at all. And so yeah, with Derek and Kwame, man, it has its place. Adjudication, it has its place.
can I make a comment about that too, just real quick? So,
Go ahead, Derek, and then that'll be the final thought, brother.
okay, just like even material. This is another thing I think adjudication helps you with. My first adjudication as a band director ever. I was in the same situation, marching baritones, sousaphones, and a tuba that was probably twice the age of myself. You know, and this worked in my favor. The kids performed very well, even with the equipment that they had. They performed very well. However, the adjudicators made a comment about my material, like especially just piggyback on targeting the tuba. I had that old tuba. They heard the valves clicking all the way from where the judges were sitting. They made a comment about that. Now, they didn't make the comment to hurt me. However, the comment got to my administrator, and guess what my administrator did? Because it was reserved by somebody else. They bought new instruments. I got new tuba because they were like, why are the kids playing on this? You know, I'm hearing they're playing the notes, but all I hear is clink, 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 clink. You know, that kind of resonated. It coming from somebody else. Just me being at adjudication, it's like the kids are performing well, but they don't have the material that they need. When it comes from an adjudicator, somebody that has some clout or whatever, and they send it to your supervisors, your principals, or something like that. Now it makes those people more inclined to do more for you, because now somebody else is observing, not just you, because we can complain all day, but when it comes from somebody else, it gives them that extra little push to work in your favor. So I just want to speak on that.
All right, bet. It was a good way to start it off, man. I appreciate everybody who's coming in so far. So let's go ahead and get to the next one. Welcome everybody to secondary sessions. As soon as you come in, please make sure that you go ahead and click that like button. Let's go ahead and get these likes up. And also please make sure that you subscribe to the Passion Is Network. All right, turn on notifications. Let's get to this next topic because it was really interesting. Jared kind of hit on it a little earlier, and it's really, and this is why I find these conversations very important, because it's really interesting to hear the different things and the different stories that people have. So, on to the next topic. Should we consider restructuring the way we teach music? Are we getting the best out of our students or just enough? Should we consider restructuring the way we teach music? Are we getting the best out of our students or just enough? All right. Derek, you got it.
Um, I think we should always change the way we teach. I feel like every time we get in the classroom, it's a different situation every day. And as educators, we have to be able to adjust on the move like that. Like, sometimes I could teach a band rhythms a certain way, and sometimes I have to teach them a different way. I think it's ever evolving. So I don't. Now, as some clarification, when you mean the way we teach, you mean it's our regular everyday pedagogy?
I'm more or less kind of talking about the situation where Jared was, whereas he was talking about the fact that he wasn't required. And there are a lot of structures and systems in place, especially within inner city education, where a lot of those things are not required. A lot of the things that we find, yeah, and I got to say this, that we find in Texas to be important are not necessarily important in Louisiana, or not important in Mississippi, or in Jared's case, are not important in North Carolina. So should we think about restructuring the way we teach music, just the overall setup, how we deal with music and music education, in its totality? And then, it is because, and then the next question is basically, are we getting the best out of our students or just enough? Basically meaning, with some of the ways that we have it structured, are we getting the best out of our students, especially when we start looking in the inner cities?
Well, so like you said, some things that are valued in Texas are different from other states. I think that applies for every area. However, I think it's on us to keep everything culturally relevant to whatever we're dealing with. Like, I guess that's the standard in Texas. It's been like that forever. So probably you're from Texas, right, Julian? So I'm sure it's been
Yeah.
like that since you've been in school, right? It takes decades to develop a culture like that. So but you got to know your status, know your culture. So I don't think everybody needs to change. I think some people have, like, I like Texas education. I like Georgia. I like the Georgia music education scene. It's certain states that I think have it right now. Certain states I do think need to change. I think there's a heavy imbalance, like in Virginia. I think we have some really, really, really good bands that are really, really good, and then we have some really, really bad bands. And obviously, there's something that's going on in between that's affecting us. So I do think we do need to change on that aspect.
You said something very quick, and I'm gonna let you go in a second, Jared. You said something interesting. It says you said something about being culturally relevant,
Yeah.
right? Um, what what does that mean? And I'm not saying like I don't know what that means, but I'm asking that more or less because let's say you have, and I don't know what Norcom looks like, but let's say you have a band of 3 kids, and I'm just using this as an example. All three of those kids love band because you get to crank it up every day. right?
Yeah.
For them, that may be culturally relevant, but they all want to major in music, and they go to some university, whatever the university is, and they're not prepared.
Yeah.
But we were focused on being culturally relevant. So what does that? What does culturally relevant mean?
So for me, and I may be using that word very loosely, but I'm saying something to keep students interested, whatever your setting is, wherever you work at. Keep the students interested. I'm not just saying like, that may be the entrance to their love of music is the rap and the marching band stuff like that. But it's up to you as an educator to start building upon that love right there and let them expand upon it. It's a lot of kids that hate concert music, but they love marching band. Once they start getting better technique wise, then they start finding that it's interesting to play this concert band music. It's just building upon. I'm saying culturally relevant, but I'm saying using repertoire and teaching methods that will connect with your students better. I think that's how I should say it.
Okay, bet. Jared, you got it.
Yeah, I agree with that cultural relevance thing. I had that. Marching band was the bread and butter for my first program for Vance. It was like that was the draw. It was the most seen. It was the most fun. It was all of that. But I did have kids that was like, well, I do want to go to, these schools. I do want to major in music. I do want to do whatever. And I'm like, all right, well, you got to understand, it's way more to it than just I play loud. You know what I mean? You have to have these other abilities on your instrument. And I mean, it was stressed from jump. And I ran into some kids. I think everybody does. You run into kids who don't like concert band. To me, I was like, you haven't found the right concert song. That's it. Check this out. And that's where you got the glories of technology, man. YouTube is amazing because almost everything is recorded. So I find a concert song that's lit or whatever. I'd be like, bro, check this. Check out what they're doing. Check out what this sound like. You think concert bands can't pipe up? They don't produce sound. You wildin'. Like, bruh, some of these joints go in. You just got to find the right ones. And I was like, and then depending on the ability of the group, you can play some of that. It can happen. Um, but should we restructure? Um, yeah, in certain ways, yes. Because I think about it like this. You was like, some things are important in Texas, but it might not be important in Louisiana. That's very true. But when you think about like where do the top kids come from that can play? They coming from Texas. They coming from Florida. They coming from Georgia. They coming from them states that have those. You have to be adjudicated or else type of situations. Now, that's not to say that there's not bands in other places that's thriving, because there are fantastic programs in North Carolina, fantastic programs in Virginia. But when you're talking about the state, like everybody. You look, man, I pulled up TMEA's all state E2s just because to expose I got kids, getting into that arena here. And I was like, man, let's just check out the difference. And bruh, I was like, these ones is going in. Like, I mean, that's not to say that what y'all was preparing isn't good enough, because it is. But look at the comparison of the exact same thing, man. This is what they expecting their kids to be able to do. And you know what I'm saying? So now me reflecting back, I'm looking at my kids in North Carolina like, hey, y'all need to get on this. Like, this is something that was missing. You need to add that. I'm talking to, my previous director friends that's still there. I'm like, hey, bro, I understand it's not, it wasn't built for us to be successful because a lot of things we have are missing. But as a matter of fact, speaking of all state and that whole scenario, bro, go that way. If you don't have, now it's a little different, because if you do have to do a festival as a part of your job security, that's one thing. But if we talk about the student, right, going student first, I'm sure every band has some kids that are better than others. Push them toward those individualized type of festival joints. Learn your scales. You learning them anyway. Learn them 2A2s, man, and go audition for all district band or something like that. It's you. You don't have to worry about, oh, I'm not sitting with really good other musicians. Nah, bro, it's just you. You and your trumpet. Let's go. Can you do it? And they get adjudicated themselves. They get their score. If they score high enough, they sit with that band. There you go. I didn't do the NCMEA version of that. I did like some individual colleges kind of had their own festivals that was adjudicated that way. So I would push my kids toward those, but um, the restructuring of music education to ensure that these kids are prepared for what they got going on, that is greatly needed. Because then if not, what, you're gonna graduate some kids that go into a college band, and if the college band don't do their part, then they're gonna become a sorry band director themselves, and then that's a whole different problem.
But that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, yeah,
Real talk.
exactly.
We'll be here all day talking about that. So maybe we'll say that for next one. Quan, what you got, bro?
So I was writing down a couple things. So I'm going to be devil's advocate on this. So before we could, consider reconstructing the way we teach, we have to first ask ourselves, is the system honestly created equal? And we know for a fact it's not, right? Like, we know that the system is not. So that's number one, right? Then I would ask, furthermore, elaborate and ask that person who's considering that, what are the systems that we're using? Because you could be a part, honestly, of that problem that we're speaking of as well. Like, we're speaking about, well, what's the difference between Louisiana and then Texas? All right. So me being from Louisiana, I know that there's a more emphasis on marching band. It's just really of it than concert band. Now, you not saying that all, schools don't focus on it, but when you hear about, Louisiana, or specifically New Orleans and the southern region of Louisiana, you're going to focus on marching band. And the reason why I say that is because, they label the city, the mecca of marching bands, right? However, when you
That's a real label?
yeah, bro.
I
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah, like,
I had no idea. Wow.
yeah, bro. Like the mecca of marching bands, from the historical aspects of those, marching bands from time to time. But my question is, as a band director, kind of to piggyback what Jay was saying, how are you also introducing these specific things to your students? The first thing that came to my mind was, one of the best examples in the world was the Bill Cosby show, when Dabness had came with Vanessa, and he was like, well, what's your favorite meal? And he's like, steaks, potatoes, whatever. And he was like, all of that's your favorite meal, but then you put it on a garbage can lid. I think sometimes, bro, we introduce music to our students like that, and then they get and it's not palatable, and it's a bad taste in their mouth. A lot of the times, like, as band directors, we do the same thing with the same kids. I mean, with different kids, but we expect a different result. And it's like, these kids don't have a buy-in factor. Like, you pick your music. Why not take 10 pieces that your ensemble could play and sit them down and be like, all right, y'all, we're gonna have a listening party, because that's what I'm about to do next week. We're about to have a listening party. Listen to this song. How do y'all feel about that? Well, listen to this piece. How do you feel about that? And let them pick it. Because if they, vote on it as a band, they're more likely to play the song and put their best foot forward than me picking these same songs from the what's called a prescribed music list for us, and then just forcing it down their throat. They're not going to want to do it. So my thing is, before we consider restructuring these things, first, we know that the infrastructure is not fair. Then two, how are we introducing it to them? Like, we spoke about cultural relevance. There are some pieces with African influence in it. There's some pieces, for Hispanic and Latino communities, like for that is tailored for them. So we have to be, fair across the board. But the bottom line, how are you introducing it to these kids? Like you said, playing these particular A2s and whatnot, and to get these kids interested in it. But again, the bottom line is it falls, in my opinion, on the band director for what you're specifically emphasizing in your program. If you're emphasizing marching band, well, guess what? You're creating band heads. But if you're emphasizing, no, we're going to be overall musicians, to where we can be musicians in whatever setting, then that's what type of band program you're going to be. Honestly, it falls on the band director. Because the band director is the most influential person in the band, period.
So, in retrospect, there are no bad bands. There are only bad band directors.
Hey, that's the saying. It makes sense.
I was taught that on this show, like, no lie, because
Yeah.
we could really consider, like, don't get it twisted, certain situations are more arduous than others, but what it really boils down to is, like, you have to be fundamentally sound. And then at the end of the day, if your focus is on a marching band, well, who bringing them to those marching band events? The band director. If you're not emphasizing solo and ensemble, who's not emphasizing it? The band director. Like,
There you
at
go.
the secondary level, it ain't really no fans, bro. Like, let's be honest, it's not like the collegiate level where you have alumni that marched for 30 years ago, and that's giving you money. At that secondary level, the community, all they care about is, man, they sound good. That's it.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, all right.
You
I
you
mean,
you think that, bro?
I don't disagree.
Mhm.
I think the community can have a positive and a negative influence. I mean, if you have a community where they are like that, where they just I'm just glad they sound good, or they sound good regardless of what it is. Then yeah, I mean, I definitely agree, because I think that at that point the director has the autonomy to do whatever it is that they feel they need to do, as long as they produce a product that, in the community's mind, that sounds good. That, in our communities, more often than not, our communities are like, if they ain't breaking it down, then they ain't worth nothing. And I think that within itself is a major issue, because I think that as directors, especially when you have programs, and I'm not saying that my program is like that, but just kind of using my high school as an example. You have a program like my high school that was massively successful, and had a band director there for so many years, with years of success. And then you turn around, and like I said, I'm not specifically saying that about my program, so I need to put that out there, because I don't want them to be like, Julie, you said that our program ain't no, that's not what I said. I'm just saying this as an example. But then you turn around, and that program is not doing that same thing, or even to the level that it used to. That community can really make a impact on the kids who come from that community, that can make them not even want to be in the band program. A band director who's coming into that program, who is always being chastised because they're not doing what the prior band director did. Like, so like I said, I can agree with you if you have the right community. So I think that's where I was coming from when I said that.
But let me say this though, for your specific situation, bro. I mean, you had a goat that was there 20
I
plus years.
said I was using
Yeah,
as an
yeah,
example. I didn't
yeah.
say
Right, right. So let's not speak about your high school experience. I do agree with you if they have had a lineage of success. You know what I'm saying? But bottom line, I think before we speak about reconstructing things, again, how are we presenting it, and how are we catching these kids' attention? Honestly, with it, like, I can play something from what is it, Michael Smith or whatever, and the kids be like, bro, this up. However, I may not have played the right one, like you said, Jay and Derek. Like I may not have played the right one to grab their attention. But I've played certain pieces by John Edmondson, and it was like, man, we really like this one. I played a piece by William Owens, Egyptic, and it was like, that's the one we want to play. So it's like we also have to honestly stop putting the kids in this hip hop. All they want to do is listen to rap box too, because some of those kids are really eclectic in their own right and want to play different stuff as well. But again, you have to make it palatable and give them the autonomy to choose. Sometimes kids just really want the option to have an option.
That was well said. I also show kids these collegiate, concert, symphonic, and wind ensembles playing that repertoire music. I'm like, hey, you like cranking up. So does Southern University. But guess what Southern has? They got a wind ensemble. Check them out. And they playing. You know, it really turned around for me. I took some kids on a like a HBCU tour. It was only 3 students, but they got a chance to see Southern's wind ensemble in person, and they was blown away. They like, wait a minute, they the pumping band. They know. Oh, you telling me they could do this? Yeah, absolutely. They got a chance to see Jackson's, wind ensembles, and it was like, bruh, like, hold on, wait, it ain't just, get ready and all the rocking and nah, yeah, they can sit down and they can play as well, which is why I'm not just blowing smoke. You know what I mean? It's needed. It's necessary, and so that changed their whole outlook on it. So you combine that with finding that right selection, that right piece, and yeah, man, it it opened eyes, definitely. Come on now, Janelle, what are you doing?
Let me add a comment to that too, man. I wanted there's a few things that y'all was speaking about. Um, like one thing for Julian for your program, you said your band director's there for what 20 plus years, right?
I was using it as an example. I didn't say that is what happened in my program. Good Lord. But go ahead.
I'm not even tied to the second half of that.
Don't use your example no more.
Yeah, I will never use my example ever again.
So I can even use my program for example in high school. My band director who is still there. I went to Oxon Hill High School. You may know some people that have come from there. Like I know you trumpet play, so you know Keo Davis and stuff like that, right? Yeah. So my band director has been there for well over 20 years now. And I think one thing that I know that was different about us was that he had the students, like when I came in as a freshman, it was the upperclassmen who got me into this classical music. That was now the culture over there. I think the students had a bigger impact on me than he did. But the thing is, he had an impact on those students, so that became the culture. The students feeding off the other students. And now it wasn't like, oh, we playing this lame music. It's like everybody was excited over it because when I was a freshman, all the seniors was like, "Oh, this has stuff right here. This has stuff right here. Oh yeah, we about to go in on this," And that's kind of what used to get me excited to play this classical. I mean, this challenging. I ain't gonna say classical because we used to play modern music too. So, but this challenging music was because of the culture that he was able to create over generations. Once that's the culture over there, and mind you, Oxon Hill is PG County is the most predominantly black county in America, right? So, but he was able to make that diamond out of the rough, just because he influenced this group of students. After that, he never used to push that stuff on us. It was just what it was, when I got there. But I'm sure when he first got there, it was different. He did have to make that change. So, I think it's like a snowball effect, man. But I think you got to be there for a long. That's my opinion. I think in order to, when we talk about even in the playing fields, you got to be there for a little break, man. I mean, it's gonna take some time. We be trying to make change in a year, 2, 3, 4. It's gonna take some time to get everything right. We're talking about building resources up. You know what I'm saying? Just a new standard of what we expect from the students. I think it takes some time.
So let me
Yeah,
first
man.
of all, before we go into, so it's very interesting because the next topic was going to be is concert band becoming a thing of the past with inner city schools, and I think we've kind of we've started diving into that anyway. So let me just kind of do it the right way, and then I'm going to respond to what you said, Derek, and then I'm gonna let Quan go ahead and cook you a little bit because I wholeheartedly disagree with you, bro. But I'm gonna tell you why. So if you just tuned in, welcome everybody to Secondary Sessions, man. If you in here right now, you're in the chat, you're watching us, go ahead and click that like button. Also, please make sure you subscribe to the network. All right. But let me go ahead and put that next topic down there. So is inner city school, or excuse me, is concert band becoming a thing of the past in inner city schools? We kind of already started touching on that. Now I really want to keep that thing going, but I'm sorry, Derek, I'm going to have to wholeheartedly disagree with you, and this is the reason why I'm going to disagree with you, because you've had a director there that's been there for 20 years. You know what I'm saying? You had somebody who basically set a culture up in a time where everything was different. So that means that culture was able to be passed down from generation or years and years and years. So, and it's just expected when walking in the door. You know, that's no different than me walking into Southern University's band room. That's, as a matter of fact, it's no different than the Legion when you think about it. Regardless of the three, or well, I guess four now, directors that we've had, there is a expectation when you walk in that door. Everybody got a behold number. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, it's there's already that system in place. Whereas, and I can use myself, I can use Quan because I know, you know, what his situation is. I walked into a situation where this is about 4 years ago. I walked into a situation where the band director had been there for 20 years. And with him being there for 20 years, he made the decision to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. The problem with that was when he left, I didn't know anything about what happened prior to that. So I had to come in and try to create my own culture. But with with the type of students that we have now, it's just a lot different. Can you create culture? Absolutely. But I think that because I don't want to hit the woe is me daddy, right? But I also want to be real. Shut up. But I also want to be real. You know, building a culture and a standard 20 years ago was different than building a culture and a standard now. You had more willing vessels back then. I don't know if you've seen um the documentary Thunder Soul. Heck of a documentary, by the way. You know, rest in peace, Conrad Johnson. Um, but in that documentary, he talks about the Conrad Johnson's former students talk about how these were dudes who were like the worst of the worst in the school. But literally, Conrad Johnson said, "Hey, come here, you playing tuba." You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't like, man, F you, dog. You know, I ain't doing that, you know, or man, it's lame, dog. I ain't doing it. Was like, all right, I ain't got nothing else to do. You know what I'm saying? So I just think that culturally, students were different. So, like I said, I don't think that it's impossible to build a culture, but I think a lot of band directors now are dang near killing themselves to do it. You know, so
I
that's where my thought process is coming from. Quan may be feeling different. I don't know.
I mean, nah, yes and no. Because I mean, I came from a solidified band program. It was a machine. I just had to go through it. Remember, my band director was there for a number of years, and I had the same situation as Derek. My band director was not the person who was like, "Hey, Jared, you should learn how to play mallet percussion." She was not. Bernard Cranford, rest in peace, was. He was my section. That's
Rest in peace,
your
Ricky brother.
yeah, your rookie brother. I was about to say, I was watching him prepare his audition solo for Norfolk State on his lunch break because I didn't go to lunch. I went to the band room. So, and I didn't take a band class that year. You know, I was just in march. I just played tenor drum. That was it. But I seen what he was doing. I was like, yo, that's dope, bro. Playing like, you know, you playing some dope stuff. And I was like, You know, he was like, "Hey, come over here and let me show you how to. You want to get money to go to college? This is what you got to be able to play." And I okay. So he broke it down. He did all of that. I got in concert band after hearing the concert band itself perform. Like I was like, what they're playing is cool to me. You know what I mean? So I joined on that. But uh you are absolutely right when it's you saying, you gotta people bend over backwards to get some of these things done. And that's very true. I feel like I did build something, worth having in Charlotte, but it was like pulling teeth. It is night and day different here in Atlanta than it is in Charlotte. The setup of everything is different. It just is. The buy-in from students is different. The cultural acceptance of band is different. You know what I'm saying? You do have I have definitely had those kids, Julian, they were like administrators was like, yeah, this kid, his life is going to shambles. Let's see if Mr. Davis can work a miracle. What? Like, I don't want that kid neither. What you talking about? But they ended up, hey, you gonna play bass drum, and bro played bass drum. I mean, he did his thing. He turned it around. In some cases, a kid just needs somebody to care for them, and whatnot. Hey, you throw them an olive branch, they do something better with. They make some better decisions. And some of those kids have gone on to be successful. Hooray! So I mean, but it is possible. I mean, the area definitely matters. Shoot, our band director, Dr. Sanford, told me that actually he was one of the first people to tell me leave Charlotte. To be honest, he was like, "You've been there for how many years?" And I mean, yeah, Jared, they sound better. They're doing some good things, but you're not growing, son. It's time to go. This was at the year like 4 or 5. I'm like, they're finally my students. He was like, yeah, that's nice, but no. like he's seen it early, I guess. And I mean, the program only did get, but so it only grew, but so much, and it kind of stayed, what it was. But I did some good things with it. You know what I mean? But I guess it kind of depends on what you want out of it. You know what I'm saying? Like what do you expect? Like kind of like what Derek was talking about, you know what I'm saying? If you want to be in a situation where you want 3 band directors, then maybe Portsmouth ain't the spot to do that in. It just might not be. It's not to say that, well, no, I don't know. If it's not possible, maybe not, who knows? But I mean, I do feel as though in some areas it would be easier to do than in others. But that depends on what you want personally. Do you want that or not? I don't know if I want a 200-piece band. I'm gonna be honest. I don't. I'd be like, how am I gonna deal with like 60? How am I deal with 80? But I'm about to have these real world problems very soon. So I have to kind of get it together. But I mean, it's personal wants, man. And I mean, that might be a decision you got to make. Maybe the part of Texas. I mean, I know you wasn't trying to use your band as the example, Julian. So I'll leave it alone. But yeah, well, I mean, just me using my band, bro. Vance was not. It wasn't set up in a way to have 100+ people. It just wasn't. And that was something I had to accept. Like, all right, I'm gonna have this 40-piece, my 2-piece in the biscuit. But when you see us, we gonna, especially the marching band. Oh, we gonna try to pump everything we can at you. We're gonna throw everything we got, and then when we sit down, they dress for this concert band type stuff. They're gonna sound well over there too, because you got to be able to do both. Is concert band becoming a thing of the past with inner city schools? I don't think it should. That's my answer to that question.
Whether it should or not is not the point though. The question is it? And I kind of
Okay,
and
I
I
get
and
you.
yeah, because and I'm gonna let Quan go. And I kind of looked at this because it was based off of a conversation that we were having on Talk That Talk, uh, where Justin was like, "These kids don't care about concert band anymore," and I'm gonna be real. How many concert band clips do you see?
Of my current school, there's quite a few.
No.
Actually,
I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about.
or just in general.
In general,
Yeah, it's not.
we have pages and pages and pages
It's not.
dedicated to the marching
Yeah,
arts.
very true.
How many concert bands do you see?
Well, can I say this, bro? I think we do. It just I don't think some people are looking for them. I think so. To answer your question, do I think concert band is a thing of the past? And I don't believe so. I don't. I think again it goes back to what is that director emphasizing. If you emphasize marching band all year, then you know what I'm saying? Then that's what you're going to see. Yeah, it's fun, but what I realize is it's only a certain amount of marching you can do. Like you have to be, and this is just me and and me Quan personally. I love concert band because you get to focus on just merely teaching. You don't have to focus on, hey, I need you to hit this line at 8. I need you to turn. Excuse me. I need you. I want you to sit in your chair. I want you to be relaxed. Let's continue to develop your tone. Let's work on some technicality. Let's work on dexterity. Let's work on blend and balance. Let's work on tuning these chords. And I want you to keep this mindset. So when we transition to marching band, it's the same concept. The only difference, the dynamics may be different, are preparing the difference to be heard outside. That's the only difference. It's a beautiful thing when you see a child that might not have been well versed in this particular aspect of repertoire play it and play that whole well, just like the same way like they would do if it was a Nuck If You Buck. Like they're well versed and become better people. I don't think concert band is dead. I think concert band, real talk, is thriving. It's just honestly what is actually put out and is what people are looking at. Like now, to a degree, and this is no slight to mass band or nothing, because I don't want them messaging me because I'm gonna tell you ass up.
You already know
Yeah,
you gonna get fired
you
up as soon as we hit a soft spot when we said mass band. It's about to
know what I'm
go
saying?
in.
But
Views about to go to like 30 people. All right, go ahead, Doc.
but what the reality of it is, when it comes to that, we have other aspects. And I don't want to use this in a negative context, but distractions outside of what's going on. Like, yes, because it's another avenue of marching band, but concert band is thriving. Like real talk. But the question is, are you a director that shows it? Like I was taught from an early age as a young director. Concert band makes your marching band better. Bottom line. And so if that's the case, we need to be focused on it. It has its time and a place. Jazz band, it has its place. Like you don't just have to focus on that. I mean, at the end of the day, bro, again, it goes. What does that band director emphasize? Now to answer you, Derek, about being at a school 20 years, hell nah, bro. Because the difference is now administrators will will squeeze you for everything that you have, and you'll be broken down, and then they'll get rid of you like it's nothing. Because again, I always speak about building. Like I say, at this particular school, I'm the 7th band director in 4 years. It's a reason why they was leaving and transitioning. I'm the only band director here. Bless God for my partner, my drum instructor, Jay Robert, for taking care of the percussion. Because could you imagine if I was a band director, I had to deal with percussion, and I'm a percussionist and the band, you're gonna get burned out. But how many band directors, real talk, in urban um areas are the only ones? And they have to teach music appreciation, and they have to teach music theory or music production, because you know why? The other kids that don't want to be in band, they need their credit too. They need their credit too. But you don't want to hire a general music teacher. You want the band director to do everything. Anything with music. Oh, well, we got a few kids that are interested in choir. Like that happens, bro. I always was taught teachers, they don't leave bad students. They leave bad administrators. That's why it's hard for them to real talk stay at a school for like that for 20 years.
Or low pay.
That too. But let's be honest, administrators don't stay at the schools 20 years. So why do we have the same expectation to stay there and build 20 years when that admin may be there 5 years, build it up to where they want, and then they get their promotion, then they out?
Well, but I don't disagree with you, but I mean let's keep it a buck, dog. Like the hard part of this reality is this: education itself has changed. Like I don't like to beat around the bush. I'm just gonna say it the way it is. Education has changed. There are cracks. Matter of fact, the foundation is broken. But we continuously are trying to find ways to get some duct tape and pull it back together. Education is broken. I mean, just using your thought as an example, there were if you look back during dang again, I'm the oldest person on here. If you look back during my time, there were principals who were staying around for more than 3, 4, 5 years. And hence, there were band directors that were staying around 20 something years. You know what I'm saying? But the harsh reality of all of that is education has changed. Principals ain't happy because principals' jobs is on the line if X, Y, if the standardized test scores don't look right. Principals, if we really look back at education, principals really used to be the disciplinarians of the school. But now they got to punch numbers. Education has changed, man. And one of the thing that bothers me is people be like, well, you just got to get with the time. I mean, that would be fair to say if music schools and education programs were teaching that way. We're still being taught education in the way that we perceived it in the 80s with a whole bunch of new acronyms and computers. That's all it is. We got new acronyms every year and technology. But we're still teaching education the same way and then saying, well, you got to get with the times, dog. Like, no. How about we change the way we deal with education? So I don't disagree with you, Quan, but I also feel that education itself is grass backwards.
I'll make a can I make a small comment?
Yeah, that's
So,
that's part.
um, man, look, I see me. You'll get to know me. I'm a hopeless optimistic. So I'm always trying to see the green in everything, man. So I know, granted, with these, I got the same type of students that we all got. Sometimes you get some that, like every morning, my first block class. Jeez, I got a trombone player and a baritone player that never want to play every single day. It's like, we got to play today, Mr. Wright. I was like, you're in band class, man. What do you mean you got to play? Anyway, but I make small victories with them every day. I feel like, and they next thing you know, like today when I came back, I was sick all last week. I came back today, they had their instruments out. I was like, so little small victories like that make me think that I can, you know, get to these students and build the culture like it was when I was in high school. That's my optimism. Now, however, I do agree the students are completely different than what I have a little brother who's a senior in high school, right? And he's a saxophone player, just like my twin brother. And he's a pretty decent musician, but his intrinsic motivation is just not the same how it was with us. It's just not the same. So I do understand that. But however, I did want to. I'm trying to tie it in with you said our concert bands dead in these inner city schools. Um, I think one thing that we're not doing. I saw somebody put a comment up there talking about exposure, and I don't mean like we said videos and stuff like that. Videos don't really do justice for our students. They can watch that video and say, "Oh, that sounded nice. It sounded like something I hear on the soundtrack of a movie or something like that." What we need to start getting more into is taking these students to live in person performances. I'll never forget. Like I mentioned earlier, I have a twin brother. He's a phenomenal saxophone player. He's probably one of the best saxophone players I know. Not trying to hype my brother up or anything like that, but he went to this school in Georgia called Columbus State. I don't know if you're familiar with them, Jared. I mean, they are awesome. I mean, they're off the chain. And my first time, I went to Norfolk State. He went to Columbus State at first before he came to Norfolk. My first time I took a plane down to Columbus State, and that was my first time hearing a professional, well, I guess a college wind ensemble, but my first time hearing a wind ensemble, like, they could really, I mean, like, it was pretty much borderline professional. I didn't know. First of all, it attracted me the volume that they can get at with the same characteristic tone they can get at, the level of music that they were playing. Man, all this stuff became attractive to me again because I felt myself kind of turn into a band head at first. I was getting away from my musician side and going to a band, but that exposure of hearing it in person changed it for me. And I know it could change it for the students. Hearing it in person is different. Like, you got the kids that like the loud cranking and all that other stuff like that. And you said it earlier, them wind ensembles get up in them decibels, they'll send the watch, but the kids don't understand that looking at a video. You got to put them there in person. I think that's one thing that we do need to change. They need to see live performances. We don't do enough of that anymore. So I just want to put my 2 cents in.
Julian, there will also be a discrepancy of video clips for concert band because it's a concert is gonna have how many pieces played? 3 at the minimum, 4, 5. That's about it. Marching bands play at a football game. That's like a 3-hour event. So you want to have music throughout. You're gonna have the halftime show. It's more attractive in that regard of the amount of video that will be played. Plus the preparation is different. Because if you performing for your admin or if you're performing for your community or whatever, you got that pressure. You got to have material. You got to have a book. You battling other bands. You don't want to be the person to leave first, that type of deal. So you got to have more songs and all that kind of stuff. You got your drills. Never mind. You get it where I was going at. Yeah.
Yeah, it goes back to the entertainment thing,
Pretty much.
which we've spoken about before. All
Pretty
right. Any final thoughts on this topic, Quan?
It ain't dead, bro. It just moved
I
to the
never said it
internet.
was dead though, but go ahead, you got it.
Now that's just my PMC, PMC thing.
Gotcha.
Concert ain't dead. Concert ain't dead. It just moved to the internet.
Good Lord. All right, man. Good one, good round, fellas. So let me go ahead and get it started. If you're just tuning in, welcome everybody to secondary sessions. About to say talk that talk. I was quick. Welcome everybody to secondary sessions. As soon as you come in, go ahead and smash that like button. Let's go ahead and get the likes up. Also, please make sure you subscribe to the network and turn on notifications. All right, here's the big one, the one that y'all have been waiting for. And so this is the last one, by the way. So if you're out there and you're listening, I'm gonna put the link inside of the chat so you can come in and call in and get in on some of these topics and have a conversation with us. All right. So here's the one. Here's the big one. I've been kind of saving this one. It's a lot going on right now in this world, in this amazing world of ours. And COVID is definitely a thing. So, question: are we making the right decisions with COVID? Are we making the right decisions with COVID? So let me kind of put this out here. Everybody, every state is doing something different. Like, yeah, I don't even know how many different ways I could say that. I know here, we just go in regular school. I don't know where it is everybody else. But it's really interesting to me to see the number of students that are out, the number of teachers that are out, the number of teachers that have completely left the classroom due to poor management of how we're dealing with COVID. So, are we making the right decisions with COVID? Jared, you got it.
So I feel as though people, this isn't, I guess, more about like district than just band specifically, but I feel as though, you know what I'm saying, districts and are trying to make the best informed decision that they can to appease the problems. So COVID hit, a lot of people died, a lot of people got sick. We seen the severity of it. We should have acted, sooner. We didn't. You know what I'm saying? So people made the decisions that they made. And for school specifically going full virtual, it did a couple different things, man. You had some kids that completely checked out, what's virtual? I'm not doing that. I'm not logging into a computer. I'm not doing anything. Then you had them kids, you know what I'm saying, that they couldn't focus at school. So when you took their friends away, you took their distractions away, they did well during COVID. They logged in, they typed their work in, they did their thing. But sadly, they were the minority. The mass majority of students did horrible. And I came from a school district where, what I'm saying, they pushed kids out. They was like, hey, you gotta go, you gotta graduate, you out. But where I am now, that is definitely not the case. They are like, nah, bro, you ain't do your work, bro. You here. And so, I feel as though districts are, again, they're trying to make, the best informed decision that they can that will help. I feel like they're trying to like aim at the middle, if that makes sense. Uh, we were virtual last week because there was a spike in COVID cases with the new variant. It impacted a lot of schools, a lot of teachers, a lot of students. But we're back in person now. Like this week, today was our first day back with everybody. And we still got the whole mask thing going on. You can't socially distance kids. It's not gonna happen because they look at it how they look at it. And then the teacher, you know what I mean. Like you said, a lot of people have left, and they're concerned about their safety as well. So you want to police a kid, yeah, but to what degree? I'm not about to just walk up in your face. No, I'm gonna say what I got to say. You take it or leave it. And I mean that's kind of a sad thing, but you know what I mean. I do feel like everybody, for the most part, is trying to do something. You know, I'm pretty sure it's better in some places than others. Like musically, or as far as like band, I could say Charlotte had us prepared with resources a little more. Like they gave out the masks for the instruments and the masks for students with the little the fancy boy with the little slit in the middle. You put the mouthpiece through. Like they did that because they was trying to be as prepared as possible. I was like, I'm gonna be even prepared more than that. We're just not gonna have band. There you go. Just go home. We're not even gonna stress it. What are you talking about? People are dying. You crazy. Where here that's some schools, if they got it, they got it. And if you don't got it, you don't got it. And so then it leaves it up to the school and the director and how you do that. You socially distance your chairs and you let the kids interact with one another, all that kind of stuff. So people are trying to make as best of an informed decision as they can. Sadly, we do live in a time of social media where everybody has an opinion, and everybody's opinion can be seen by a lot of people. And I don't think that's good, but it is what it is. But yeah, all in all, to say, man, people are trying to make a decision that would appease the middle if possible. Yeah. Janelle, stop.
All right. All right, go on. Are we making the right decisions with COVID? Smith, unmute your mic though.
I thought I did, my bad. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I mean, bless God, like he's protected and kept us You know what I'm saying, thus far, and I pray that he continues to keep us. There's really no right or wrong answer because I've seen both aspects of it. And let me be clear, I've had an aunt that passed away from COVID. Like, so it hit home close, you feel what I'm saying? So I've seen the detriment, honestly, of virtual learning. Like certain things was good, but honestly, I've seen students that literally was getting their haircuts while the Microsoft Teams is on. They're not paying attention. like real talk. I've seen you try to make them, hey, turn your cameras on. Girl getting her hair braided in the kitchen. 30 minutes after you hang up, you know what I'm saying? Then you have your what's it called? Asynchronous time, while they, and honestly, you have a whole 2 years has lapsed where students was virtual, to where honestly to get them back acclimated into a traditional school settings, they don't even know how to sit still because they're accustomed of 30 minutes teaching. Um, Now I would say during that time of COVID, um, if you are a real teacher, you learn how to teach because you had to transition and change. You had to, get out of your comfort zone and learn flip grids and learn how to, use technology to the best of your ability. Um, Again, the right decision for COVID, I don't think there's a right or wrong decision because regardless, if you say let's go back to school, you're jeopardizing yourself, right? And then if you say, well, I'm gonna stay home, honestly, you're jeopardizing some of these fine arts programs because we're about performances. So there's really no right or wrong. I think Jay is right. We're trying to do the best that we can. But I think honestly, that's an individual decision that you have to do what's best for you. If you don't feel comfortable, nah, bro, don't put yourself out there. Just do the best that you can to protect you and your family. I think this COVID thing is gonna be here for a little minute. And so you just gotta do what's best for you.
All right, Derek.
Yeah, I completely, Quan kind of took some of the words out of my mouth saying there's no right or wrong answer for this. Because one thing, we're in person, yeah, we're putting our physical health at jeopardy. However, this virtual learning, man, when Quan was talking about the barbershop stories and everything, it started giving me a little PTSD, man. And I think a lot of teachers feel that same way, man. That virtual learning really like had a lot of people either walking out or second guessing, their life in this career. I know a lot of teachers that say, if we go back virtual, deuces. I know a lot of teachers like that, and I understand it. I completely understand it, man. Because
I'll comment on that in a second. Go ahead.
okay, man. Because you can't even blame it on. You really can't blame it on anybody, man. I can speak from my experience. Portsmouth. It's not a impoverished city, but we do have our impoverished areas and everything like that. But the city made it happen for virtual. They gave everybody hotspots and laptops and everything. They made it happen. But at the same time, man, I was getting on the screen sometimes. It doesn't matter how I learned how to teach, because I did learn how to use some technology. Students weren't showing up to class, or playing video games the whole time, and then me having to go. But I've called people's parents while I'm in class. I'm on the phone like this, calling their parents and say, hey, can you go upstairs and check on your son? They're playing a video game while I'm teaching class. For me to even have to do that while I'm teaching the class, that took away 5 minutes of instruction that I could have been given. So I just don't think that virtual learning thing is an option, but at the same time, it's the safest way. And the in-person thing is, like I said, you got that health at risk, man. So I think it's like a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. So I think we're doing what we can. I do think there are some things we could do better. Just like reporting cases. True. I was sick last week, man. Not with COVID though. Put that out there. But I was sick, man. I got back to school first day. I was all right. The second day, though, got a little itch. I was like, hold on, what's going on? So I mean, people are getting sick. It's flu season still. So it's a lot of things that we could be doing differently, man. But like I said, I don't think it's a right or wrong answer.
So let me hit on a couple things. Let's go back to the virtual learning aspect. all of you are absolutely right in the sense of the virtual learning topic, because I think we all experienced it, right? Like the kids who just absolutely didn't show up. I remember vividly, like a young lady would just like log in, but she was sitting outside on the porch doing absolutely nothing. And I'm like trying to teach class. Like, so I mean, I think we all went through that. And as educators, I think we're all feeling the effects of that, based on the fact that now we're dealing with a bunch of students, and we talked about this all last semester. We're dealing with a bunch of students who ultimately 2 years behind, right? So, like, if you really put it into context, and this was the best way that it made sense to me. If you put it into a context, a seventh grader was a fifth grader. So a seventh grader who essentially started this year, or was it? Yeah, this year was a fifth grader. The last time they were really in school. So their idea and concepts of education in school didn't go past whatever they learned in fifth grade, and that's from just being able to sit down, control themselves, control their bodies. They still on crisscross applesauce, and in seventh grade, we like, yo, sit down. Like it ain't no crisscross applesauce. They still on recess time, but ain't no recess by the time you get to seventh grade. You know what I'm saying? And that's the same thing when you talk about a high schooler. A ninth grader was a seventh grader. So I think the mental aspect of it, we're feeling the effects of that as educators. Um, there's that half of that where I'm not going to say I disagree with you, Derek, about those teachers who, like, if we go back to virtual, then I'm out, because I think that there are teachers like that. But I think a lot of the teachers are out because of one, the effects of what virtual did to students now, not necessarily them specifically being virtual, but going to one of the things, and I'll tell you guys about this later. Administrators, right? Administrators, from the virtual aspect and the now aspect, are things that are driving teachers away, right? Because I don't know about you all, but it felt like there was more required of us from the virtual while we were teaching virtually. And a lot of educators are like, you asking for too much in a situation that don't necessarily line up, right? And then when we went back into the classroom, it's like we're getting a different set of kids. We're not getting the kid that we really the type of kids mentally that we really left. We're getting a completely different set of kids, and the administration is asking things from us that would have worked prior to COVID, but it doesn't necessarily align with what we're dealing with post COVID. So I think all of those aspects are the reasons why educators are leaving. You're taking that and compounding that with the fact that the pay hasn't changed, right? So all of those things, you know, wrapped up in a ball and put onto a bow. And then also the your health dangers that are also on the table as well. So all of those facets put into one are the things that are making people or making educators leave the classroom. But then there's this other aspect that I look at just from a band director perspective, right? um, because in classes and in schools and things like that, and in just even every day walking around, like and I have to always say this: every state, every city is different. If you take somebody, I would say from the East Coast, and you would have brought them down to Texas a year ago, you would have never thought it was COVID, because most of the people was walking around straight with no mask daddies on at all. They was comfortably walking around without mask daddies. And um, so I think even still guidelines would say that you need to wear a mask and blah blah blah, right? But even when you're talking about ban PPE, all that PPE, I think it was a nice gesture. But them little phony mass daddies was not sweet. They were actually, as a brass player, pretty difficult to play on. And even with a woodwind player dealing with a clarinet player or a saxophone player, putting that reed inside that little slit daddy, that was a struggle too. I had many a chip reeds from a lot of kids. Um, so that within itself is, to me, was an issue, right? But then also the bell covers. I thought the bell covers were okay, but how does it almost seemed counterproductive with a clarinet and a saxophone, because I'm putting it over the bell, but there's also air that is escaping, and aerosol that is escaping from the keys. So I say all that to say, when I asking the question, are we making the right decisions with COVID? From a band perspective, I really can't even I can't say that we are. Like, I really want this thing, what we do, to continue, because one, it's our livelihood. It's what we decided that we wanted to go into education, to do. We spent X amount of years in our university programs to be able to do what we do. But I also think that it's the weirdest. Um, it's the weirdest situation of being counterproductive, because if we're like, we have to follow these guidelines, but we're playing inside of the classroom, then that just kind of takes away from every guideline that we're saying we're trying to follow. So and it's so, like, let me give you another example. I'm always teaching about what your oral cavity should look like when you're playing, what your embouchure should be doing, what your jawline should be doing, what your tongue should be doing. Like, these are common conversations I have with my students. I talk about air, moving the air, how the air should be produced, and the way we teach, we talk about, how wide the air is versus, how wide your airstream is. We have them blow on their hands. That's impossible to talk about COVID guidelines doing that, because I'm constantly pulling my mask down and showing them what the oral cavity should be like. So, like I said, I think it's counterproductive. We tell the kids to walk through the hallways with their mask on, but then when they come to band, go ahead, pull that mask down, because you got to play. Like, you see what I'm saying? So, and then just thinking about my old band room, everybody doesn't have the new state of the art band room. So my old band room, and y'all, Derek and Jared, y'all will get this analogy, or this example. My old band room wasn't no bigger than the choir room. And then you talking about spacing people out. But I had, my last year there, I had 30 something kids, 35 kids. How am I spaced 35 kids out, percussion included, in a room that size? That's just impossible. So, these are thoughts that I just don't know if we are making the right decisions. I don't know.
And that's a part of it. It's no one does. You just you try to make the best informed decision that you can based around what you got going on. Because they had those studies of aerosols, and I thought about that immediately. You know what I mean? Like, okay, you telling me a sneeze can carry the virus, and it'll enter somebody's face and all that kind of stuff. Then when you blowing into your horn, it's coming straight out. It's like a fan. So I was excited to see those studies being done or being conducted. Uh, from these different universities and medical programs and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, for me, that's why I just shut it down. But I was like, I ain't gonna have to worry about it. You just won't have a band. So I mean, but I mean, everybody doesn't want to do that. But I mean, I was thinking about the safety of not just me. I'm thinking about the safety of the kid, because I don't know what I would have done had a kid, gotten sick, especially that early on, and it would have took somebody from us or something like that. I wasn't prepared for that. I wasn't prepared to go and be like, oh yeah, we was having band practice and your child got sick. I mean, that happened to us here in Atlanta. I had to shut my band down right, but I missed the first 2 weeks of school, and we quarantined the entire band program because of that. You know what I mean? Thankfully, everybody, they did recover and whatnot, but still, you know what I mean? Like you got to make those informed decisions for yourself, for your kids, for you and your kids. So teacher zone.
All right. Let's welcome everybody. Let's welcome Chuck. What's going on, bro?
Hey, what's going on, bro? What's going on, y'all? Jay, what up, man? Yeah, so I popped in a little bit late. I'm watching this national championship football game. But definitely, I wanted to touch on the thing, with COVID because, we just, like, for an example, the a lot of MLK parades are coming up, and ours just got canceled. Ours just got canceled, due to COVID, and it's virtual, and I just had to let my kids know today. But even then, like, I know one of the conundrums that we've had to face throughout COVID, and this is, and I think Jared falls in this realm as well too, because we're both new to DeKalb County, but we were teaching last year in a different district, at the start of the pandemic, and so seeing it in two different states, you really see how everybody's just kind of winging it, when it comes to certain things, and it's crazy because I've had an opportunity, not only serving as a band director, but I also coached as well. And I'm sure, maybe some of you guys on here or other band directors that's on the show have done both, which is entirely crazy to do that. But anyways, that with athletics, it's kind of just been, the ship's still been moving forward. I know I was unable to have a winter concert this year. They didn't give us the approval until after Thanksgiving. We literally had like a week or two of school and we're going to exams. Now, we still had been working things up, but we were unable to have the concert in the way that I would have liked to have. Other schools were able to do that based on their administration. Our administration was like, nobody like in the building or within close quarters. But then we got volleyball games going on where there's people in the gym. Of course, at the football games, here in DeKalb County schools, most schools have, we are at the community stadium. So the larger stadiums, and it's packed. Our game versus Southwest Stevenson, some of the big schools, it's slam packed with folks. But then we can't have a socially distanced concert, and so what I've noticed is, like Jared said, like to each his own in terms of like, we're trying to navigate the situation, but you mentioned it, with the tone holes on the clarinet and on the saxophone, you still got air, you still got stuff pushing out. Like I looked at, and not saying anybody that used bell covers and stuff like that, yeah, but I looked at it like it doesn't really do too much, not at all. And especially as a lower brass, and I played sousaphone, and I remember one year we got bell covers and they magically disappeared because we did not want to use them, and so like it didn't really do anything. And I remember going, I don't know if any of you guys went to the CBDNA, of course, is normally for college directors, but for COVID, they actually opened it up for high school directors to go and to learn about the different procedures they were doing to protect band students and stuff like that. And I remember going to that, and then they had a whole like PowerPoint, talking about the methods and way to protect students. And a lot of it makes sense, but then some of it was like, you mentioned about our rooms, our spaces. Has our facilities ever been sufficient? When I was in Chicago, I used to practice in the lobby of the school because the band room was too small. And I was like, I'm not going deaf for anybody, you know. And we would practice right out there after school, right in the main lobby. If somebody had to go to the main, the office, you got to go around the band, you know, because this is where we're practicing because the ceiling wasn't high enough. I mean, those are all things like OSHA, you know what I'm saying? Their standards and regulations and stuff. And I mentioned that, and not to get off topic, but I mentioned something a little bit earlier, like about not only like our playing fields being even. You know, I know some of you guys probably don't get wipes every week or having somebody to clean your room, you know, just a sufficient amount of times. And so we just kind of play, I hate to say it, Russian roulette. It's not how, it's when, you know, like Jared mentioned at the beginning of the year, you know, he had to shut down his whole program, you know, as a new director coming in. At my school, we kind of ducked and dodged it all the way up to Christmas break. At Christmas break, I had like 5 or 10 kids that popped up with it. I wasn't feeling well. I had to make sure myself and family were good. It was crazy, you know. And so, again, I can't honestly say that we're making the best decisions because the best decision, and it's going to stunt our growth in any area, is, you know, just not being around each other. You know, not being around each other. I mean, it's just, you know, and it sucks because, you know, you put us away. Like when we were really on lockdown and couldn't go anywhere, couldn't do anything, it definitely messed with a lot of people's mental health, you know, and individual state. I mean, I can honestly say I fell into that thought of like, all right, am I done? You know, I've been doing this long enough. Like, do I need to do something else? Like, it's been so hard to go back to the band room after virtual learning. It's insane, you know. And like you said, you mentioned it, kids coming into high school. I mean, we're really dealing with middle school kids. You know, their first year coming in, and then socially they're just not ready. And I got two middle school kids, and you know, they haven't been able to go anything. You go to anything at all. I remember when I was in middle school, I was going to dances, I was going to games, I was, you know, kicking it with my friends, just kind of getting that social aspect. So I can't honestly say we're making the right decisions. And it's just showing that, you know, certain things take precedent over others. You know, athletics has not shut down, you know, whatsoever. In Vegas, we had our own basketball bubble. It was like the NBA bubble, you know, and everybody was meeting, all the high school teams. I was like, man, this is insane. Why are there so many people in here? And they ended up shutting it down, you know. And so, again, I can't say we're making those, you know, those best decisions, you know, but it's tough because we still want to keep some progression going.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. I remember when we went back to school at my old high school. When we went back to school last year, we had all of these protocols in place for band. It was like the band kids had to be 12 feet from each other. And I was like, 12 feet? Like, what kind of drill
are we playing in the gym?
Right. And then, but the problem came when my kids were asking like every day, well, why the football team get to play and hit each other and sweat on each other?
It is.
And I'm like, I used to say, look, I can't answer that. You know what I'm saying? Let's just control the controllables. We can only do as much as we can. So I 100% agree with you on that. I think the other aspect about this too is just the fact that you know, I honestly think that staying away from each other is like the best idea.
Bro,
I
I
mean,
was living in Vegas before I came here. In Vegas, like it shut down for a moment, but then everybody was coming. Like, hey Chuck, I'm in town. I ain't coming down there. You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? People were taking, I mean, they're already dirt cheap to Vegas anyway, but people were taking advantage of that and taking vacations and hanging out. I mean, the strip we would drive by and be like, just to get out the house, just to go drive around. I'm like, man, this thing ain't shut down. You know,
We definitely
like,
took our first. We definitely took a vacation to Vegas.
right.
Yeah, you trash.
Like,
see, Jared, you part of the problem.
Right. But I mean, at a point, like you get so like, I mean, I started, and this is just being honest, like when we went back to the classroom, I think it was March after that whole year, first year of the pandemic. And I was teaching virtually and to the few students I had in my class. I had a lot of class periods that I didn't have anybody. So they're teaching virtual, doing their work. Man, I got into doing, you guys know the acapella app, right? I started doing acapellas on like every instrument and then putting it together, playing arrangements because I was so bored, but I needed to hear the sounds of all these instruments at the same time. I was losing it. I was like, man, I've been doing this for so many years consecutive and I don't have this and I miss it, but then I can't figure out how can we do it safely. You know, like we did our auditions for our wind ensembles and we're supposed to start rehearsal next week, but I'm nervous. I'm like really nervous and I just don't know. I'm trying to find ways, to keep us safe. But again, it's just, a matter of time, before somebody pops up sick and then they got to shut down again and then start again. I think we've had it the worst because like you mentioned, the kids ask, hey, football team's out there, basketball's out there, they doing this, they doing that. Why can't, but these are things that we've dealt with before in terms of, I would say injustice or unfair treatment towards the performing and fine arts. We deal with that all the time, but this is on a whole nother level. And I think it's retiring teachers because we're not paid enough. I think you guys already talked about that. The amount of stress that we have to deal with. Now we're dealing with parents that are pointing the finger at us versus looking at the kids. I had a student that's not returning to the school and her mom's like, the school's not helping out. And I'm like, look, your child doesn't come to class. She can't do well in class if she doesn't come to class. I was like, she's pulling the wool over your eyes, and so again, it's definitely a difficult time for all of us. I mean, I hope that, we can gain some knowledge as educators to be better because there are some areas I know that I improved in. I used smart music when I was in college, but now I'm a huge smart music advocate for secondary or even middle school directors. Like we're full steam with it, this spring, and I'm already seeing just improvement, with that. And so, smart music, I think they cut their prices in half because of the pandemic. And made it a little bit more affordable for us to use. And so, again, there's ways that we can, improve on the technology side because it's not coming, it's here. Absolutely. It's here. And I don't know what programs. Does anybody use Canvas?
Yeah.
There?
I use Canvas all the time.
Yeah, right. And see, that's the thing. Like we use Canvas in Vegas, but we use something else out here in Georgia. I wish it would be across the board. That would make things just a whole lot easier for educators to kind of share things and things like that. But everybody's kind of just doing their own thing. Some people use Zoom. Some people use Google Meet. Some people use this. Some people use that. It's just so hard to gauge it. And I couldn't even imagine the current music educators that are in school right now, or the majors that are, that are in school right now. I can't imagine. They're having I think one of my former students is a band director now. He had to do his student teaching virtually. I'm like, God, I felt so bad for him, man. I'm like, God, that sucks,
So you guys aren't doing y'all are not meeting face to face at all.
Well, we are today. We started today. In Georgia. I'm in Georgia now. We started today. We did 3 days of virtual last week, and then we are in person today.
And that's why I say every state is different. Because we've been with our kids since day one. And I understand, your level of anxiety because, and I don't have a problem saying that I go to work with anxiety every day because I know, like I said earlier, I know what I have to do when I'm with my kids. I know that I have to teach them the right way to play the instrument. I'm teaching beginner kids, you know what I'm saying? So all of those things are encompassed in that. And like I said, I go with anxiety every day. I do my best to keep my mask on, but when I'm talking vowel shapes and oral cavities, you can't keep your mask on for that. So I really understand where you're coming from. And like I said, from state to state, knowing that you all even just had the option to start virtually. For me, if that would have been an option, I would have gladly taken it, but I know that wasn't an option. So I don't know. Like I said, it's a really interesting situation. It's different from state to state. I agree with you that, a lot of people are just winging it, and trying to figure out, I guess, what works best for them. You know, and like I said, state for state. Like I think you were saying, you have middle school girls and they couldn't go to no dances, no nothing. Is that what you said?
Oh, and I have 2 middle school kids, my son and my daughter. You know, and
Okay.
they haven't been able to do anything.
And see,
at
that's
all.
the difference. That's the difference. See, like my last year at my last high school, they had prom and they went to
Right.
dances and all that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
it's just different. I don't know. Yeah, I
Right.
don't know.
Let me tell you, in Chicago, I thought it was, and there's some places that are doing some innovative things. Like in Chicago at the school that I used to teach, they rented out the Bears stadium and had prom there for all of like the charter school networks. So they were out on the football field, social distance to the best that they could, but it was dope. And they had a DJ right in the middle. And I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, that makes sense. Like that works. You know, for Vegas, when before I brought my kids in and we started rehearsals, every one of them had to be tested and had to have a negative test and all that stuff. Here at my current school, I can't even ask them to go get tested. I can't require that. You know what I'm saying? Which I'm like, that doesn't make sense, you know. And I think they're doing it on the athletic end, but then you know what I'm saying. So again, and I get it, as an administrator, it's probably one of the toughest times ever. You know, you're dealing with behavior issues on a whole nother level, and you don't really get to do what you set out to be an administrator for. And then you're having to deal with this pandemic and just figure out and make decisions. I mean, we all know, I'm pretty sure y'all got those little letters that administrators send out every day when somebody pops up positive.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, the little blanket statement.
I wish.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Y'all don't even get it. We at least get them. We get
right.
them.
We get them and they go out to parents.
Someone on your campus
statement.
is blah, 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 blah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And that's the way to cover them. You know what I'm saying? For any leave. Oh, we let them know. Who? What class were they in? What side of the building?
Right.
Like my students that popped up positive, some of them are my ones that come in my office, you know, and have conversations, you know, about different things. And I felt so bad. I didn't know if they were sick, if they were positive. I gave it to them.
Bruh.
Like I was just like, oh my goodness, I was freaking out, you know.
Kids that I was teaching like beginning like trumpet to would turn up and just be gone for like a couple of days. And I'm like, bruh, are you serious? Like I was just showing this dude how to buzz on the mouthpiece, and now all of a sudden no, help me, Lord. You know what I'm saying? So no, I get it. I get it, man. Man, Chuck, man, you got anything, man? Anything else, man?
No, that's it, man. You know, I know I bopped on the talk last time, and I'm like, all right, let me space it out. Let me let some other folks get on. But, you know, seriously, man, I just like the topics that you guys talk about and the things you guys talk about are like the exact stuff that is like going in my mind right now. And just in general, you know, and I just, you know, appreciate you guys having these conversations. You know, looking forward to seeing some more topics. I really like this one because or just this segment, secondary, because of course, you know, we all set out to do different things. I wanted to be a middle school band director, but I ended up teaching high school, you know, and I've been that way for 16 years, and that's what happens. And you know, we definitely deal with some things that are a little bit different. And I hope that young and future band directors and young directors are watching this stuff and hearing these things and asking questions. I was telling my students today, I was like, anybody that's great has, you know, ask questions. We got to put pride aside, you know, like you guys were mentioning, have those other band directors in your band room, you know, and say, hey, look, I tried this or try that. We have to put that pride aside. And so I hope that, you know, some of these younger music educators can listen to some of these things and ask questions and be inspired and not just be scared. But these are our truths, you know. These are things that we've been through. And so again, I just appreciate you guys. Y'all keep doing your thing, and hopefully we can get some other, you know, directors on here. You know what I'm saying? Some maybe some seasoned. You know, I had to A&T it up. We got a lot of Norfolk in here, you know, which is okay. I love y'all.
No, Quan from PV. So
right.
Yeah.
All right,
you know all right, bro. Appreciate the
take
support.
care, guys.
Yeah, man. You know, he's absolutely right. You know, I this is the reason why we have this, man, to have these conversations with secondary educators, man. And one of the things that I'm gonna always say is, if you're out there watching, if you're a secondary educator, if you know any secondary educators, let's get them on. Let's bring them in here because I want to continue to have these discussions. So tell a friend, bring a friend. Let's get in here and have these discussions because I think it's definitely important to have. Next week Monday, I have a really big plan on what I plan on doing next week. We're talking administrators, man. And the good, the bad, and ugly. So next week we're gonna talk administrators, and I've been preparing my brain and my mind for that conversation. So, y'all make sure the listeners make sure you guys come back, man, because administrators is going to be a very interesting topic to have, and we may have some special guests on the panel. But so let's keep our minds and our brains ready for that. All right, let's get ready to get out of here, man. We got to go ahead and end the night. It's a Monday night. It's Monday. It's Monday today. Dang it, I'm wishing it was Friday. Anyway, it's a Monday night, man. We got to get back to work in the morning, man. Jared, you got anything? Any final thoughts?
No, man. I was really happy to be here. Looking forward to the next drink, man. I share the same sentiment. I tune in, when I can. Definitely, man, because this is definitely dope. And it feels good to have and be a part of the conversation, and to know, people are having the conversation. You know what I'm saying? It's real cool to have like that kind of like support, if that makes sense. Because in a lot of cases, um, and Julian, I don't know if like the last time like we talked was before you started this or not, but like to know, somebody is going through what you're going through as well. Like it's not just you. And you can kind of, share those ideas back and forth. You can sometimes, man, you just need to let that out, you know what I mean, and get a different perspective of things. It really helps. Like it really helps. So, I'm again glad to be a part. Look forward to the next joint, man. And yeah, I'm with it.
Hey, bro, this is what this is for, man. It's not it's event session definitely, but it's also to find some common ground, and everybody's meeting where we are, and hopefully with hopes to create change and create the conversation that will move the ball forward and make some things happen. All right, Derek, any final thoughts for you, bro?
Man, look, I just appreciate being up here. Like I said, I'm probably the youngest as far as banners go out of the people you have on here. And I really I take advantage of just to shut up and listen sometimes to what you all have to say, man. Uh, some of the things, I'm gonna try to get some more of these young band directors out here listening to stuff because some of the stuff might validate your thoughts or it may have you thinking about it in a different vantage, that you had before, man. So let's keep on having these conversations, and I look forward to next week.
All right, man. Yeah, man. I definitely appreciate y'all. Chuck is absolutely right in the idea that we got to get some more non-Legion folk up here. But one of the things, yeah, we all came from Legion, yeah, but except for Quan. But one of the things that I do appreciate about everybody that's on the panel is that we're all in different areas and different spaces, and that's ultimately what my goal is going to continue to be. Because as I always say, I don't want us all to exist in a think group or an echo chamber where we're all given the same sentiments from the same exact spaces. All of us are in different spaces. We may be coming from some of the same situations, but they may be massively different. And so that's why I felt it was necessary to have people on who were from different areas and different spaces, because that conversation itself is necessary. Man, with that being said, man, I don't got nothing else. I appreciate everybody for checking us out, man. Until next week, we will be here on next Monday, 7:15. You check us out, Secondary Sessions. Stick around for Talk That Talk, which will be going on Wednesday, 7:15. Other than that, see you guys next week.